So we're thinking about doing another air layer. This is actually, if you go back to one of my other air layer videos, this is the air layer that was taken off of a much bigger stump, and it's doing quite well. It's going to be a relatively small tree at some point. This section in the middle is pretty much going to be what we want, so the sides are superfluous. This is the target for today, so this hopefully is going to make quite a nice little broom style Zelcova. We've got this portion of trunk that's nice and straight, and then we've got a natural division here that we can work with. They both go over a little bit to one side, but it's not the end of the world. You can't get everything exactly that you want. So we'll start the air layer here. At this point we'll encircle it. I'm not going to leave a bridge. Zelcova root pretty easily, as we've proved by taking this big chunk off already. So we'll tidy up a couple of the little dead stubs. I won't prune the top at all. We'll let these draw, and that will help root growth. So nothing's been touched on this since it came out in the spring. It's a little bit later than I would normally, but the weather is pretty awful. We'll make a start on this, and then I'll show you the parent that it came from in a bit. Right, let's get some tools together. We've got some sphagnum moss here that's soaking. It was very dry, but that's taken in the water now, so that's nearly ready to use. And then we'll knife round where we're going to want the roots, and then we'll wrap it all up. Hold on, let me get my bits. Just take this little bit out. And then we're ready to take a band out that's just over the diameter of the trunk. So I'm going to take our bottom one out first. How many other people get squirmish when they see somebody else using a knife that they've got no control over? Alright, so that's gone all the way around. That's marked our bottom zone. We're now going to come up to where we want. I don't want it too high. I don't like rooms that are really tall. If we want to keep this as a shohin tree, then we're going to need to keep the whole tree 20 centimeters from the surface of the pot. So with that in mind, I only want this to be what, just over 2 inches, 6 centimeters, something like that, from the division. These will be worked back later once it's taken and we're happy. These will be reduced. So we go again. This cut is the important one, because this is where the roots are going to come. If you get this one at a slight angle, your roots are going to be at a slight angle. Sometimes that's beneficiary, because you can tilt the tree to be growing sideways, but we want to keep it nice and parallel. So this cut needs to be accurate and at 90 degrees to the trunk, so we get the trunk straight in the pot and the roots nice and flat. So again, go around. And now we make a line from the top cut get my fingers out of the way. I might do it from the bottom up. Made a little nick at the top, and I want to shoot past. So now we've divided the two cuts. We should then be able to get the knife in and flick, and the bark comes out quite nicely. We'll work that around. Be careful that we have made full cuts. We'll do the other side because you can't really see around the back very well. Loosen it away. Work it around again. Just get slightly deeper there. Keep going around, a little bit at the bottom. It's just going to be out of view for a second. Not doing anything different. That's it. So that's our band taken off, but we still need to do a little bit more. So this, if we just leave this, it won't be enough. The tissues just under the folium mixoium, you need to take those out. So what I do is to cut carefully to our line, and then take the knife and just take out that little bit of wood. That way you know you've cleared out what you need. I do that top, and I do it bottom, just to make sure there's a decent gap. So I'll do that all the way around, and I'll come back to you when that's done. So there, we've gone all the way around now and cut into it. Some of the books just talk about scraping, which works obviously, but at least with cutting in, you know you've definitely taken it all out. So that's what I've done. So I've just taken a little bit out, not too much. I don't want to thin it right down, then it's going to snap. And another technique, people say that it bridged. They didn't get any root, and this calloused up and then bridged the gap. And if it bridges, then it doesn't bother to root out, because then it feeds the top part from the bottom. So with a small bit of wire, you can put it around the bottom of the cut, and do it up, and hopefully that might be enough just to stop, or to delay it enough for that to root out before it tries to get to the bottom. Just a little nip. Tuck that in. That's it, that's tight. So that's now ready for us to bag up below, get the sphagnum moss in, and just one little thing is to add a little bit of rooting hormone. I use Clonex just because I've got it, but the bottle's all coming apart. Lovely. And somebody pointed out that the instruction leaflet for this says don't get it on your skin, but I'm quite happy to get it on my skin because it's just the easiest way to apply it. So I get a nice great lump of it all the way around there, and then I wash my finger after I put the lid on so I don't knock it over. In with me moss. So washed it all off in the water that my moss is sitting in. Right, and then we're just going to use a plastic bag. Slip the plastic bag all open so you've got a long sheet. And I'll come back to you in a minute when I'm a bit more ready. So just tied a bit of bag around the bottom below the joint, and now we just get a big handful of our moss. This is the mucky bit. So we get a big handful, pack it in one side, pack it in the other. Great big handful, and then we pull the bag up. This is different to the speedy method that we did on the wisterias. This is more your traditional way. And if you want a simple method, go and have a look at the wisteria one. It's just I haven't got any pots at the moment. That's that. So we've got that done up. Our slit is up in the air, not underneath, so the water can run out. Not under here, it's on the top. And then we take another bit of string and do it up relatively tightly, but we'll improve that in a minute because we want good adhesion of the moss. Tie that off. My string's a little bit ropey. It's biodegraded being outside. Right, I'm going to trim back some of this, a bit long. You can try and make a bit of a funnel so any rainwater or when you're watering will collect, and then it should seep in a little bit. And then our over length of string we can use then to wrap the bag and to hold it then. Too long a bit of string. You can hold that. Give it a good squeeze. You can get the water, some of it will lose out. Just go round and round and do it up like a haggis. And that will keep the moss in close contact with our trunk. And then we just tie it off onto the bottom one. Trim off our string. Job done. So that's that. So that is the 5th of June. I would say it's a little bit later than I would often do it, but it will probably take 6 weeks. So we'll have a little look at it halfway through July. We might be able to see traces of root tracking around the bag. but we'll have a look. So I'll show you now some of our other air layer projects that I've covered and how they're doing. So there we go, that's the 2 air layers on that we said. I'm actually going for quite a small tree on this side. I could have gone down the trunk a bit further, but it was all a bit straight and there was some horrible knots and scars that would have been on it, so decided not to bother and just to go a bit higher up where it's a bit thinner. It was only about just over a centimetre across, 10mm, and I've done it there, and we should end up with quite a small little kiddie tree. There's a couple of nice turns. At the moment it's got too much on it, but that's all to draw up to get the root. So that's done, and we'll now let's go and have a little look at some of our other projects. Wisteria came off these 2 here and around there. Well, to actually see the bottoms of these, even got a flower still there in June. Those 2, and there's another one over here, which is the one I actually put into a bonsai pot. I was just doing flower pots, and they came off of the big one when it was in the ground. They were the ones done in the yogurt pots. So this one's got a flower. They got hit by the frost badly, probably the worst I've ever had wisteria hit by frost, right at the wrong period when the flower buds were just coming out, so they didn't have the leaf buds behind them coming. So it's taken a long time. Like I say, it's now the 5th of June and we're only just really getting good active growth on it. Plenty of blooming weeds in here, but you can see it's quite a beast. And I did mark it with some string for 2 air layers, but I'm not sure this year I'm really going to get enough rampant growth to, where's the other one, in there somewhere, get some rampant growth to do those air layers. But if it really picks up this week, it's supposed to be a bit cooler this week and damp, it might really start going. This one I was hoping to air layer this year, again absolutely decimated by frost, and this is really struggling. You can see it's coming. The bit down the bottom that was nearer the cabin must have been protected a bit, because that's going great guns, but this bit is struggling. You won't see it on this, but a lot of the little buds in there are still green and just starting to push. See there, it's just starting to push, but not good. These things happen, but we don't really want them to happen. This one especially is way too big for me to lug it around and put it under cover, so I might fleece them over next year, sort of January time, February, probably more February, March, just to ward off those frosts as it's got active. So that's that one. This was our hawthorn air layer that we took. It's absolutely growing a treat. This is the parent Zelcova, but the one I was just working off came off of that stump there, and this is going to be trained into a huge broom style Zelcova. I'm going to need to work on the roots at some point to even those up and get a better radial root spread, but at the moment we're just dealing with getting it cut back and to get it started. What else have we got? Sabina that we air layered from is growing well, some great movement in that, and the air layers are down the garden. I'll show you those in a minute. Over here we've got the hawthorn that donated our air layer that I just showed you, and this is now just starting its sort of journey to becoming a bonsai. It's going to take a long time, but it's stick my hand in there, you can see it's quite a lump across the base. In time it'll make quite a nice tree. This is one of the Sabina air layers that was taken off of the one I just showed you, and this is the other one. So they were done 2 seasons ago, and this season I decided to change the angle of this taller one, and it hadn't made that much root in that year when I took it out. I think it's quite slow on their roots, so not something that potentially would need repotting all that often. You can see there's quite a lot of browny bits in there, and that's where we had a little bit of flower. There was no flower on that one. I think it was probably because of disturbing it again that it stressed it a bit. But I've now got it at the angle that I want, and in a couple of years, when it's regained all its vigour, we can start on it. There's no hurry, otherwise you'll lose it. So those are the 2 air layers. This was our donor Bonichidori maple that we took off the raft, and that's up here. That's there. It's just a ball of foliage at the moment. You can't really see much, I don't think. I can even get you in there. I don't want to pull branches away and snap at it. But it's a nice little, a lovely little raft. But you can see just what you can get. So that's 2 years. That maple from the top of the other one. And this was the one that we did the thread graft. Again, you're not really going to get in there and see it, but this in here is where the thread graft came through, and we've been pinching that, and that's a weed. We've been pinching that now, and we're getting quite a nice tree. We've got rid of quite a lot of the horrible growth, and you can see in there it's got a big base, which is not seen during the summer, but in winter we'll come back to it and do some more autumn pruning on it. If you go back to one of the other videos, you'll see me autumn pruning this one last year. So I think that's a round up. Oh, this one we actually air layered, sort of more of a ground layer, and you can see the roots there. It really needs to get down in the pot a bit more, but I did have it mossed up, but the birds keep pulling it all out again. So I think that's all the projects covered that we've done in the last couple of years. Oh, this was the juniper that we put Shimpaku onto. Grafted that, approach grafted that on, so that's changed the close. That was horrible, weeping, horrible foliage on it, and now we've got something to work with later. So it's almost ready in the autumn time to do a bit more work on that one. So that's it. Hope you've enjoyed the first part of this video, and now hopefully the sun will be out and I can show you if we got some roots or not. So we'll fast forward now until whatever day it is I'm going to say. See you in a bit.